Hi there. Have you ever wondered why disturbing stories about Catholic priests and child abuse seem so common? It's an uncomfortable question, one that shrouds the Catholic Church in a cloud of controversy and suspicion. This issue, as unsettling as it may be, is not a recent phenomenon. The Catholic Church, a bastion of faith for over 1 billion souls worldwide, has been grappling with the scandalous issue of child abuse for decades. This problem has not only tarnished the Church's reputation, but has also raised questions about its moral authority. The prevalence of child abuse within the Church is a chilling reality. Over the years, numerous high-profile cases have come to light, each more shocking than the last. This is not confined to one region or country. It's a global issue, one that spans continents and cultures. Some may remember the Boston Globe's groundbreaking reportage in 2002 that exposed systemic child abuse within the Archdiocese of Boston. This investigation, which won the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service, revealed the shocking extent of the problem and sparked a worldwide conversation about the Church's handling of such cases. Another case that sent shockwaves around the globe was that of Martial Maciel, the founder of the Legion of Christ. Maciel, once a revered figure within the Church, was found guilty of sexually abusing seminarians and fathering multiple children. These cases and countless others have left an indelible mark on the Church's reputation. They have shaken the faith of many, leading to a crisis of trust within the institution. The Church has been forced to confront its demons and take a hard look at the systemic issues that have allowed such abuse to occur. But to fully understand the problem, we must delve into the past. This deep-seated issue has roots that stretch back centuries. Understanding its origins requires a journey into the historical context of the Catholic Church. The Middle Ages, a time when the Catholic Church was a dominating force, dictating societal norms and laws. The Church's influence was vast and deep, touching every aspect of life from birth until death. It was an era when the Church was not just a place of worship, but also a center of power, education, and social order. In this epoch, a key development took place that would shape the Church and society for centuries to come: the introduction of celibacy for the clergy. This decision wasn't made lightly, nor overnight. It was a gradual shift, starting from the early 4th century and culminating in the 12th century with the Second Lateran Council, which made celibacy mandatory for priests. But why celibacy? The Church had several reasons. Firstly, it was rooted in a desire to emulate Christ, who was believed to have lived a celibate life. Secondly, it was seen as a means to ensure the spiritual purity of the clergy, freeing them from worldly distractions and familial duties. Lastly, it was also a practical consideration. By preventing priests from having children, the Church protected its wealth from being divided among heirs. This shift towards celibacy was not without controversy, however. It was met with resistance from some quarters, especially among the clergy themselves. Many priests struggled with the demanding nature of celibacy, leading to a dichotomy between the Church's ideals and the human reality. The Church's decision to enforce celibacy was also influenced by societal norms of the time. The Middle Ages was a period of strict moral codes and societal expectations. Sexuality was often viewed with suspicion, and celibacy was seen as a marker of moral superiority. However, the introduction of celibacy had unintended consequences. While it was intended to promote spiritual purity, it inadvertently created an environment ripe for secrecy and abuse. The strict enforcement of celibacy, combined with the Church's immense power and influence, created a system that could be easily exploited by those with ill intentions. The introduction of celibacy was a decision that would have far-reaching consequences, some of which we are still grappling with today. Celibacy, a vow of chastity and a life without marriage, but what implications did this decision have? Celibacy is a commitment that many priests make, a promise to live a life without the companionship of a spouse, the intimacy of a partner, and the joy of children. It's a pledge to devote oneself entirely to the spiritual world, to God and to the Church. But this decision, this vow, has implications that ripple far beyond the individual priest and the confines of the church. For some, celibacy is a path to spiritual enlightenment, a way to focus entirely on their relationship with God, free from worldly distractions. But for others, it's a struggle, a constant battle against basic human needs and desires. This struggle can lead to psychological stress and emotional turmoil. Isolation, loneliness, and a lack of intimate relationships can impact mental health, potentially leading to depression, anxiety, and other psychological issues. But the implications of celibacy extend beyond the individual. Sociologically, the Church, by enforcing a life of celibacy, has created an environment that's somewhat detached from the rest of society. This detachment can breed a lack of understanding, empathy, and accountability. Moreover, the Church's insistence on celibacy may have inadvertently created a culture of secrecy and silence. When priests struggle with their vow, they often do so in silence, fearing judgment or punishment. This silence can create an environment where abuses are more likely to occur and less likely to be reported or addressed. It's important to note that celibacy in itself doesn't cause abuse. Many priests live celibate lives without harming others. However, the pressures and isolation that can come with celibacy may contribute to creating an environment where abuse is more likely to happen. Celibacy, while intended to be a spiritual commitment, may have inadvertently created a breeding ground for abuse. Secrecy and silence, the Church's response to the growing problem. As the issue of misconduct within the Church began to surface, the response was one of hushed whispers and quiet maneuvers. The Church, in a desperate attempt to preserve its reputation and image, often chose to sweep these allegations under the rug. A metaphorical rug woven with threads of denial and evasion. For centuries, the Church has held a prominent position in society, a position that comes with a significant amount of power and influence. It's no surprise, then, that when faced with accusations that could tarnish its image, the Church chose to protect itself above all else. The cover-ups were extensive. Priests accused of misconduct were often moved to new parishes, their past sins conveniently forgotten or rather purposefully ignored. This relocation strategy was akin to a malignant game of chess, with the guilty parties shuffled around the board, their transgressions hidden from view. These cover-ups were not isolated incidents. They were systematic, orchestrated at the highest levels of the Church. The secrecy was so deeply entrenched that it became a part of the Church's culture. A culture that prioritized image over integrity, reputation over responsibility. This culture of silence didn't just protect the guilty, it victimized the innocent. The victims, often young and vulnerable, were left to grapple with their trauma in isolation. Their voices were silenced, their pain overlooked, their trust shattered. But as we know, secrets have a way of coming to light. The Church's strategy of denial and diversion only served to amplify the problem. The cover-ups allowed the issue to fester, to grow in the dark corners of the Church's hallowed halls. The veil of secrecy only served to exacerbate the problem, allowing it to fester and grow. The Church, despite its attempts to maintain a facade of purity and righteousness, could no longer hide the truth. The dark underbelly of the Church had been exposed, and the world was watching. In the face of mounting evidence and public outcry, how is the Church addressing this issue today? Let's delve into the modern Church's stance on this issue, reflecting on the steps taken to tackle the problem head-on. Over the past few decades, the Church has made strides towards acknowledging and addressing this dark chapter in its history. From public apologies to internal reforms, there has been a concerted effort to ensure such abuse never happens again. Pope Francis, the current head of the Catholic Church, has played a crucial role in this transformation. He has publicly acknowledged the Church's failures and has called for concrete and effective actions to combat this issue. The Vatican has implemented new policies, such as the motu proprio, which mandates the reporting of abuse allegations within the Church. Additionally, the Church has begun to provide psychological help and spiritual guidance to victims, recognizing the deep scars that such abuse leaves behind. However, there are steps that still need to be taken. The Church must further improve transparency and accountability. Zero tolerance for abuse, regardless of the perpetrator's position within the Church, needs to be enforced. The Church must also work to rebuild trust with its followers, many of whom feel betrayed by the institution they once held dear. Beyond addressing the issue internally, the Church must also cooperate with secular authorities. Encouraging victims to report abuse to the police and supporting them through this process is vital. The Church can no longer hide behind its walls. It must stand in the light and face the consequences of its actions. The Church's journey to healing and change is far from over. It's a challenging path filled with difficult conversations and uncomfortable truths. However, it's a journey that must be undertaken for the sake of its followers, for the sake of its future. The path to healing and change is a long one, but it is a journey that the Church must undertake for the sake of its followers and its future. Be sure to hit that like or subscribe button and keep being curious, beautiful, and continue learning. Check out some of my other videos and keep staying curious.